SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease joins us now from New York for more on this. Sherwin, it was during apartheid when Jesse Jackson showed the political force of the Southern Baptist movement, its compassion and solidarity with South Africa. And he dies during a time where relations between South Africa and the US are quite fraught. Poetic, perhaps prophetic, some may say. But it was Donald Trump's response and statement to the passing of Jesse Jackson that struck me most curious. Take us through it.
Well, I'm going to avoid the narcissistic elements that you've probably picked up on, Oliver Dixon. I'm going to focus on the positive in the statement, and this is what the US president did say earlier today on a Truth Social statement post. He said he was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts, very gregarious, essentially meaning someone that, is very comfortable in the social space, and someone who truly loved people. He also mentioned some sort of negative elements about how he helped Jackson, how, Jesse Jackson didn't like former President Barack Obama, but that I think we can put aside and focus on the positive sentiments expressed by the president. Let me also read you what the former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama said a short time ago. Oliver, Michelle and I are deeply saddened to hear about the passing of a true giant, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more than 60 years, Jackson helped lead some of the most significant movements for change in human history, from organizing boycotts and sit-ins to registering millions of voters, to advocating for freedom and democracy around the world. He was relentless in his belief that we are all children of God, deserving dignity and respect. He also then touches on, and I thought this was very important in the statement, Oliver, he says his two historic runs for president. Remember, Jackson ran in 84 and 88 as a candidate for the Democratic nomination. He never succeeded in that goal, but he did run and made history in many ways in that sense, in terms of being the first black candidate for president in the United States that was able to launch a national campaign, garnering millions of votes in that process. Barack Obama says he laid the foundation for my own campaign to the highest office in the land. So a honorable tribute there to a front runner, essentially, in terms of the pathway that was created for the likes of a Barack Obama. 20 years after that 1988 campaign that Jesse Jackson ran, you had Barack Obama walking out in Chicago that night with his two daughters and the First Lady, the future First Lady, Michelle Obama, saying, "Hello, Chicago," 20 years after Jesse Jackson ran in 1988. We've also heard from, if I may, the Clintons, the Clinton couple, Bill and Hillary Clinton, saying they describe him as a friend for almost 50 years, a champion of human dignity who helped create opportunities for countless of people to live better lives. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, called him a giant of the civil rights movement in the United States and a longtime champion of human rights, equality, and justice around the world. And finally, the Rainbow Push Coalition, Oliver, they also put out this statement. Remember, he founded this organization by combining what was then known as the Push Coalition. He merged the People United to Save Humanity with what was then known as the Rainbow Coalition to form the Push Rainbow Coalition in 1984. They put out a statement and said he spent more than 6 decades dedicating his life to advancing equality, dismantling systems of oppression, and amplifying the voices of the underserved.
Yeah. Importantly, Jesse Jackson was an anchor of the Black Caucus in his time as a representative. And importantly, that was not just a moral anchoring, but a galvanizing force for advancing the full score and complement of civil rights achievements. And many will see this administration of Donald Trump as a regression on that. What were some of the last sentiments Jesse Jackson had, particularly pertaining to the Donald Trump administration?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think Jesse Jackson in many ways, based on that question and your sort of shaping and enunciating of what the Black Caucus represented, Jesse Jackson, after leaving Congress, also recognized the limits that the legislators had, given the dynamics of United States politics that is very prevalent today. It's very difficult, unless you have a supermajority, to govern in the current format of how governing in America has sort of developed over the decades. And I'll read you a quote. I did a story covering what was then called the 20th anniversary of the Rainbow Push Wall Street Project's Economic Summit. So essentially a sort of subset of summits that that he would hold, aligned with the organization that he founded in Chicago that dealt with issues of economic inequality, right? He always talked about how we have the same discussion in South Africa, political freedom having been achieved, and the work that still needs to be done in terms of attaining economic equity in South Africa and in many parts of the world, part of the SONA debate that is ongoing in South Africa right now. And he said this in 2017, quote, "We achieved freedom and now we must achieve equality, and that meant not only access to the right to walk down the street and use public accommodations, but access to capital and industry and technology. Locked out, we were denied the right to learn the science of capital development, so we've globalized freedom. Now we must globalize equality." I mean, doesn't it still ring true in terms of the narratives and debates that are happening in the political space right now? He also said this, Oliver, how do we get inclusion? Knock on the door, buy shares of stock, or sometimes fight, picket, protest. But at least when you're fighting for economic justice, you're fighting the right fight. And the good news is everybody wins.
Yeah, Sherwin, Bryce-Pease, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Sherwin coming to us live there from New York.